everybody, this is the Vikstrand. So, when I had seen Terminator Genesis, I said to myself, I'm probably not gonna watch another one of these Terminator movies in the cinemas because this just felt so underwhelming, and it just felt like they had, run out of steam completely and was completely out of ideas. But 4 years later, they promised me something. They promised me a fresh start, and they promised me that this was going to be the new, great, spectacular, awesome Terminator movies. They were going to do this in a couple of ways. First, James Cameron will be back not only as a producer, but also with a writing credit. He was going to, write this movie in some capacity. He actually, was responsible for writing the story, not the script. But anyway, and Linda Hamilton was back. And also, this was an R-rated movie, and it was $185 million. This actually looked like this was going to work. This actually looked like this was going to be a really, really good movie. And I went into this movie with actually a lot of hype, a lot of enthusiasm. And then the movie started to go on and on and on and on. And slowly it drained me. And slowly I just became so disinterested in this whole thing. And I walked out of the movie theater and thought, damn it, you fooled me again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I honestly don't know what they are going to do to make me interested in another movie in the Terminator franchise. And as of the recording of this, May of 2025, there is still no more movies announced, and thank God for that. I'm just going to pretend that Terminator Genesis and this movie simply does not exist, and I'm going to try to forget that it ever existed. But why is this movie so underwhelming? And why is it such a disservice to the Terminator franchise? We're gonna dip a little bit into that, because now we're going to review Terminator Dark Fate. So it is 25 years after the events of Terminator 2, and once again these shiny ball things from the future appears, and out of them steps various cyborgs from the future ready to settle the score for some reason again. And we have this synthetic human called Grace, played by Mackenzie Davis. She has come to the past to protect Demi Ramos, who is a young woman that we don't know that much about, because we have this black-steeled Terminator-esque thingy that has also come from the future, who wants to kill Ramos for some reason. And after they had that pretty awesome car chase, Linda Hamilton shows up. She is apparently alive now, despite being dead for the past 3 Terminator movies, because this movie essentially scraps the entire timeline since Terminator 2. We'll get back to that in a second. So now these 3 women have to team up and try to coexist in order to try to stay alive and being one step ahead of Gabriel. And will they be able to defeat him? Will they be able to keep Ramos alive? For what reason? That's what we're gonna find out in this movie, sort of, kind of. So the first problem this movie has is almost the entire cast. Grace is one of the most uninteresting and one of the most boring protagonists I have ever seen in a movie. She mostly bitched and moaned and complained, and despite, the idea behind her, she's almost type of a Logan-esque character, except she doesn't have the, claws that comes out of her hand. which was a fun idea. She's about as useless as a ventilated condom, because once Linda Hamilton shows up, she's officially kind of sidelined, and you could have written her out entirely and we wouldn't have missed her at all. The only purpose she's here for is because she needs to give us some exposition, which ended up hurting this movie severely because they have changed the timeline once again. Now, the very, very controversial thing that happens in the beginning of the movie, and since this movie came out, I don't know, 7 years ago at this point, I feel that I can tell you what it is, because we get to see, you know, a sequence that happened after Terminator 2, when a Terminator they didn't know exists actually was able to kill John Connor, and Linda Hamilton was unable to stop him. The thing is that when that thing happened in this movie, when I saw it in the cinema, I actually liked it. I thought to myself, okay, we're going to do something that will be different. We will do something that actually means something this time. We will not have a rehash of the same plot that has happened over and over and over again. Oh, silly boy, you know that they're going to do exactly the same thing. That is sort of kind of the twist with this movie. And when I realized that that was what they were doing, they had basically swapped out John Connor for Ramos. That was when I thought, oh, so you're just lazy now. Because Ramos is a completely uninteresting character herself. I actually cared about what happened to John Connor. I thought Edward Furlong did a fantastic job in Terminator 2, aka one of the greatest movies of all time. Ramos is just kind of there. I really like the fact that we have Linda Hamilton in this movie, but it's just so uninteresting. Now, if we could have had something resembling the awesomeness of Robert Patrick as the T-1000 in this movie, then maybe this could have worked. But the thing is that Gabriel is one of the most boring and uninteresting villains that I have seen for the past 10 years or something like that. He was just so boring. It's essentially the same thing they have been trying to do since Terminator 2, trying to make another T-1000 that is as memorable and awesome as that one, but they have just rehashed the same idea over and over and over again, and it's just so uninteresting. I mean, they have great action set pieces, and they have a couple of action sequences that actually works. But the thing is that this feels so half-baked, it feels so half-assed, and I really don't see James Cameron's fingerprints on this movie. It's just a movie that happens, that has lots of action in it, that has some cool sequences, but at the same time it just feels like I've seen this thing before, and it was much better, you know, the last time. Even a kind of dumb and underwhelming movie such as Terminator Genesis or Genesis, or however you're supposed to pronunciate that thing, actually, in my opinion, is a better movie than this thing. I mean, they screwed up the timeline even more in that thing, and they had an also very underwhelming and bad villain in that thing, but it almost kind of worked. This thing just was there, and when we have about 45 minutes left of the movie, then Arnold actually shows up as the T-800 and, you know, telling us his motivations and whatever this was, and that thing actively made me go, oh god, because it basically pisses on the entirety of the rules that was set up in the movie that they are claiming to try to make a straight sequel to. If you are a huge fan of the Terminator movies, in my opinion, watch the first two and watch Terminator Salvation, which is a very, very, very underrated movie, and a movie I think has been unfairly panned because it is actually kind of an awesome movie, and the only movie in the entire franchise that actually dared to try something that was at least partially new. So This is a rehash of old ideas, and it feels lazy, it feels worn out, and it feels uninteresting. Arnold at least seems to have, you know, some fun playing the T-800. And Linda Hamilton should never have been written off the franchise for whatever reason. So this is a movie I cannot recommend. This is a lazy and underwhelming movie. And if this movie would not have been called Terminator Dark Fate, but it would have been called something, then maybe it would have worked, because then you wouldn't have had the memory of the other movies in the back of your head. It would have felt more fresh. Now we just have a $185 million movie that doesn't feel like a $185 million movie. It feels like a mid-card level movie that, you know, is trotting out the tricks that we've seen before, but it used to be better. And the entirety of, you know, not having Skynet in this movie, the joy of that disappeared fairly quickly when we were informed of the new thing that is happening. And then I thought, if they had to kill John Connor in that horrendously dumb way that they did, at least let it, you know, be something that leads to something that is not the same thing but with a different coat of paint. This was exactly the same thing as all the other movies, just with different participants in the whole thing. When I saw this movie originally, I just thought that it was a lackluster movie that could have been better. But the more I thought about it, the more time that has passed since this movie has been made, the more I've understood how actually kind of bad this movie is. The movie has okay ideas, but it is just so lazily made that there's nothing else to do but to say that this is the worst movie in the entire franchise. I mean, they did John Connor dirty before in Terminator Genesis, but that movie had at least some entertainment value to itself, and I did kind of like Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor. That was kind of fun. This movie's just no fun until Arnold comes into the picture. So I don't know what to say. This movie is not very good. It has good sequences, as I said, but it just feels like such an average movie. Every time I think about Terminator Dark Fate, I just think this movie becomes a little bit less good than what it used to be. And I have decided that this movie deserves 36 points. It is not a horrible movie, but as a huge fan of the Terminator movies, it serves me shit and pretend that it is lobster and I'm supposed to praise its wonderful taste. I'm not gonna do that. Either do a movie that is more simple and more to the point like the first one, or make a movie that is a big spectacle and a dreadful, dark and complex tale like the second one, or do something completely new. You're trying to do this lukewarm kind of half-assed thing, and the social commentary they tried to do fell a little bit flat, either because it was too much on the nose, or that it was just simply something that I didn't think really fitted into the whole thing. So take that for what you will. So which movie do you think is the least good of the Terminator movies? Comment below and I'll see you next time from well so and so reviewing well such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.